Yeah. What's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. My name's Matt Striker. His name's Joe Pisapia, and this is the place for those that want to dominate, whether it be season-long fantasy, straight-up wagering, whatever it is, you're up, you're down, we've got you covered. There's still plenty of time to profit. Joey P, come on in. Time is really all that we have. The author of the Fantasy Black Book, and in the time that book has been out, you have changed the way a generation is focusing on fantasy, on wagering. So a tip of the cap to you. Thank you so much. A reminder, folks, at SportsGrid TV. You can talk to Joey P right now. He loves interacting with the humanoids. Joe, welcome. What's on your mind?
Yes, the rise of the machines. We're going to need some of those machines. Maybe we need some cyborgs because not a lot of guys playing this week, and it's not just the buys. We got 6 teams on a buy, and everybody else is hurt. So we're gonna talk about those backup QB situations, what they mean for fantasy, because there's a big trickle down effect. But I want to start with something positive before we get into the muck here. I want to start with Rondé Gadsden, an emerging star at tight end for the Chargers. Right. Shades of Antonio Gates, right? A guy who is more of a wide receiver than a tight end. And just for context here, it's been Gadsden was the guy we wanted to add last week, by the way, at tight end. If you watch the show, we talked about Gadsden, and this is a guy we should be adding. And if you add him this week, you loved life because he was coming off not just a great Sunday last week when we were ahead of that curve, but also a great Thursday night football as well. So last week, 7 for 9 for 164 and a touchdown. This week on Thursday, 5 for 5, 77 and a touchdown. He didn't even play the first 2 weeks of the year, and he's already a top 10 tight end in scoring, if you can believe it. So a stud emerging at tight end who probably should be more highly rostered than he is. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm still looking at some of these numbers. It should be 100% already. It was not near that yet. So it is National Tight End Day. Happy National Tight End Day to all those who celebrate. And Rondé Gadsden got him off to a good start this week here, as I guess it was the eve of National Tight End Day, maybe, perhaps. But, Matt, it is brutal out there in the streets. We got to talk about it.
All right, it is brutal. It is brutal across the board here. We have so many backup quarterbacks. We have so many injured receivers and players. Actually, let's start there. What can you tell me about Lamar Jackson? Last I checked, trending to play, but now not so fast.
No, but at least you have Tyler Huntley taking over. And he's been in this offense before. He knows what he's doing. So it's going to be better than what Cooper Rush was doing, which, once again, is a very low bar. That's for sure. But it is tough right now. The Baltimore Ravens, I think we all thought Lamar Jackson would be back this week. You're still running Derrick Henry out there. You have no choice. I'm sorry. You still, I think I feel better about Huntley with Zay Flowers, to be honest with you, just because he knows this offense and this system and some of these players. Mark Andrews is still a tough start here, but if you have no choice, I get it. You go ahead and you start him today too, but it is rough, and he's not the only one too. No Lamar Jackson this week, no Jaden Daniels this week, so we're going to Mariota. We will give you some positive Commander news. No Brock Purdy, so you're getting Mac Jones again this week. No Bryce Young, so you're getting Andy Dalton. It looks like no Michael Penix potentially too, so you're going to end up with Kirk Cousins, and that seems to be where things are going. We shall see. And then Tyrod Taylor was supposed to be taking over, so now we've got Justin Fields going back under center. So dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria, and it's going to have a huge impact potentially on the fantasy productivity of a lot of wide receivers today and a lot of running backs and a lot of offenses. So I would be looking for some unders today, potentially. I think you can see a lot of that because it's just not the same when you don't have those other guys running the offenses that are supposed to be running the offenses. And speaking of the Jets, too, when we mentioned Fields, Sauce Gardner with a concussion all week. If he is out this week for some reason, it looks like we might get close to that. I would be looking at Jamar Chase overs. I want to lock him in now because I do think there's a real chance he does not play because of the concussions, because I think that number will skyrocket after that news comes out early this morning. So if you can get ahead of it with us, get ahead of it. Other than that, man, it is tough out there in those streets. It's going to be a lot of ugly football today, Matt, with a lot of backup quarterbacks, a lot of injuries, and a lot of buys. Fantasy is becoming a real challenge in Week 8.
Well, folks, for this entire show, we remind you at SportsGrid TV, we're going to be talking about the waiver wire. We're going to do some buy low, sell high. We'll do some start sit for you. But right now, let's set the table here. Some injuries, who's in, who's out. Joe, take it away.
All right, so out for the 49ers, Ricky Pearsall with that knee issue, which is really frustrating. He was on his way to a breakout season, and then They'll just completely derailed that. Brock Purdy out again, another one too. We thought, okay, now we're going to get Brock Purdy. Mac Jones has started a lot more games, I think, than anybody anticipated. So interesting matchup. Tough defense against the Houston Texans. I still like San Fran today and +1.5. I think they get that job done. Mac Jones has been pretty decent here for this team. Next up here, good news. I finally want to give you some good news. We're going to finally get Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin playing together in the same game. Yay! Rejoice, Commanders fans. Unfortunately, you're not getting Jaden Daniels in this game, and it's against the Kansas City Chiefs, so yay! It's not quite as big. But look, Mariota is QB2 territory guy. What you don't want to do is have Marcus Mariota have to throw the football too much here, but I think he's going to go over 200 yards just by necessity. They're going to have to play catch-up in this game against the Chiefs, so that's actually a good thing for McLaurin and Deebo. Yeah. So that is a good thing here for the Commanders, but again, a tough matchup for them. Emeka Egbuka, with the hamstring injury, he was questionable last week, but he ended up playing last minute. He's going to play this week, too, against the New Orleans Saints. Mike Evans done for the year. Emeka Egbuka continues to be my rookie of the year, and I think this is an important game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Get back on track, beat up on the Saints, have a much-needed bye week. If there's a team that needs a bye next week more than any other, it's Tampa. They've been running on empty here. They are, look, it was a tough night for them last week against the Lions. The Lions had a great game plan. Give the DC Shepherd a lot of credit there in Detroit. He's had a great game plan for Baker Mayfield. Couple weeks before that, a great game plan for Lamar Jackson. They haven't skipped a beat. So Shepard's done a phenomenal job out there for the Lions. And then Dalton Kincaid, we're still waiting on news for him, but you want to start him this week if you can, especially against the Carolina Panthers. That's a good setup. A.J. Brown is going to be out this week, though, too. So in a big matchup here where you have the Giants going back into town, that terrible loss you took against the New York Giants. Giants, I think, had lost 11 straight against NFC East opponents before that game. So I guess everything was bound to come around. But look, Jackson Dart and the Giants almost, you can argue, should have beat the Denver Broncos last week in Denver. The Denver Bronco defense is way better than the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Sorry, everybody. It's just a fact right now. They took it to them, and they should have won that football game. A couple kicks, some mismanagement there by Brian Dable. All those things didn't go their way. But, Matt, this is a huge rematch we have on tap today, and now A.J. Brown being out of it is really rough. Do you think that we see now even more Devonta Smith now that A.J. Brown is out, or do we see more Saquon Barkley, who, I don't know, man, he doesn't look quite like the same guy from last year, does he?
No, and as the show rolls on, we'll talk about this probably all the way to the final segment here. For me, this is the game to circle on today's schedule because there's many outcomes. One is that sometimes you don't know that you're supposed to lose, and the Giants can go out there and get up after an emotional issue last week with Denver, get up and really play this division rival tough, or they can go in there and get their socks handed to them. And what does that mean for them rest of season? And we'll talk a little bit more about what the Giant resurgence has meant to the wagering community, especially around these parts. Like I'm going to mention, I'm out in Long Island, Joe's out in New Jersey. So we'll talk more about that, but that's going to be the fun one for me, Joe.
Yeah, another big wide receiver out this week. Nico Collins also not playing. Neither is Christian Kirk. So you're going to get Jaden Higgins. You're going to get Jalen Noel. We're going to talk about those guys more in the show. I think both have streaming opportunities this week for sure. It also bumps up Dalton Schultz a little bit more in the tight end spot. Breece Hall is going to play this week. That is good. Christian Watson also in deeper leagues too. If you're looking for a dart throw, I mean, at this point, like you're just looking for live bodies. He got activated from the PUP list, so that is another interesting one too. Drake London came up as questionable after practicing all week. I think Drake London will play, especially now that Penix isn't. I think how much he affects the game, we'll see with this hip injury, but I do think you will see him take the field. So a lot of moving pieces. Luckily, we are here to keep putting them in place for you. So don't go anywhere. We're going to have a great show today. We're going to do waiver wire. We're going to make some trades. We're going to do start sit. We're going to do it all. But when we come back, we're going to start with where it all begins, the prop market in fantasy. We'll be right back after this. FST is just getting started.
buy or sell, Gentry will finish the season as the top rookie fantasy running back. And I guess I would ask this question to you, George. Who the bleep is he competing with at this point? It is so ugly at running back in fantasy. RJ Harvey has done nothing. Omarion Hampton is hurt. Caleb Johnson, does anybody even know where that guy is? He doesn't even play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, what am I missing here? Oh, there's one. There's one that I'm missing. There's one that I'm missing.
I'll name that for you. I'll name the guy you didn't mention there. Well, Henderson's another guy, by the way. The New England Patriots don't trust, right? They don't play him. But the guy that could compete with Gentry, would be the name that you said you loved during preseason. You love this guy's name, Cam Scotabo, right? He'd be the guy. He's right there with them. The only problem for Cam would be, A, it is the Giants. Their schedule is brutal. And B, Tracy should return. So that's going to take away. Cam will be the starters. I think he will be. But Tracy's going to eat up some touches there. So that's my only issues there. But I think he's the guy who competes with Gentry for that number one overall role, which I'm shocked. I'm shocked that it's not Hampton, but he got hurt. Shocked that it's not Henderson, but they don't like him. Shocked whatever, RJ Harvey in Denver, whatever's going on here. Will he finish the season at his top? This is a little different when I say I automatically take the field here because there's only one other guy. I'm going to buy this. Gentry's the best guy, but would I be surprised if it's Scotabo? No, I would not.
Yeah, I'm going to sell this for the guy that I just forgot about in Cam Scotabo. I guess the only concern that I would have, and it's a slight one, is that in a couple of weeks, Tyrone Tracy comes back.
Fantasy Sports Today. Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Just a great crew here. My name is Matt Striker. He's Joe Pisapia. Behind the glass on the ones and twos is Sam Y, the sports guy. And of course, TD Jake and a whole host of other heads down a row that never really look up. But I do see you, and I want to acknowledge your work. And, of course, we want to hear from you as well. Not you guys with your heads down, but you out there at SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. It's time to do the fantasy over-under. Joey P, feet to the fire. 1-3 last week. That's fine. We're 18-10 overall in the season. And I keep stressing, if you're making the proper plus money bets, 18-10 is huge. If you're just playing these evens and these minus money things, and 18-10 isn't as fun as it could be. So let's have some fun here. You know how it works, Joe. I'll give you a player, give you a situation. You tell me if it's going over or under. Let's start with Rico Dowdle, and this is an interesting one. Over under 50.5 rushing yards. The reason I say it's interesting is because in the last 3 weeks, if you look at the first two, he was just gangbusters, and then I think he only had about 17 attempts last week for 79 or 80 yards. I could be off on the numbers here, but I think that's why this number's low. But I want you to tell me why 50.5, and is he going over or under?
Yeah, it's the Chuba Hubbard return that has kind of faded all of a sudden the stock a little bit of Rico Dowdle. But last week against the Jets, too, he did still rush for 79 yards. And I'll say this. Chuba Hubbard is still startable, especially this week because we have so many injuries and so many players on bye. But it feels like it should be Rico Dowdle's backfield. He has been incredible. And he was, I think, a good running back, a nice running back for the Dallas Cowboys. Whatever's going on here is stunning when you look at these last couple of weeks. He is, in terms of all-purpose yardage, what he's been able to do, catching the football in the backfield as well has been something that he's been able to show up there, which was a skill set we always knew that he had. But, these overall numbers too, 234, 239, right? And it's been wild, right? The rushing plus receiving numbers. Last week, that combo was 96. So even if you find a combo number on Rico Dowdle, because you want to give yourself a little bit more potentially in terms of leeway, I think you take it, because I think when you're looking at Rico Dowdle and what he's done this week, and frankly, what the Bills have not done all year, which is really slow down offenses. That Bills defense has not been great. They're coming off 2 straight losses. They're really interesting too, because we're going to talk more about Josh Allen in a second, but James Cook has to touch the football more for the Buffalo Bills, and that's imperative. Now, if he does, that might slow down this run attack a little bit here for the Carolina Panthers, but I still feel very comfortable. 50.5, I think, is a very comfortable over for Rico. The way he's been playing, I understand the utilization concerns. I get that. And if you have those utilization concerns, then I would pivot to the rushing and receiving as a combo, because I think that one is very achievable as well. Right now, you're getting that around 66.5. So, a couple big catches, all of a sudden, that's going to help this rushing total as well, that combo total. So a lot of ways to bet on Rico this week, and I just don't see him slowing down against the Buffalo Bills.
All right, people are liking the combo total, the all-purpose yards. So we're going to ask our team to maybe, if we can, within this segment, let's get a good all-purpose over or under. But for right now, let's continue with a running back question here. It's Bijan Robinson. 88.5 rushing yards is a number, and I looked it up, and he has not eclipsed this as often as you think he should have by this point in the season. I think only a couple of times. Let's see, is it over or under, and why?
Well, let's add in a little something called the Miami Dolphins to the mix. Okay. Also, Bijan is at home this week, and Kirk Cousins is going to be playing. So there's going to be a lot of Bijan. And just for a reference, the Miami Dolphins have given up the most rushing yards on the year. How much, you ask? I'll tell you. Over 1,000 yards already in 7 weeks. No other team's given up 1,000. In fact, their number is 1,115. That's right. 1,115 rushing yards they've already given up this year. So, and now you're entering the Atlanta situation where you have Bijan Robinson, who is an absolute stud. And I know that Tyler Algier is going to work. And my only fear is that they just get up by so much potentially that Bijan comes out at some point. And again, if you want to bet a combo total, that's fine too. But I would stick with the rushing here. 88.5 is that number. I think he's going to go over this one. And I feel very confident about this one too. So confident that I would even bet that anytime touchdown scorer in the first half of the game too. Nice. That way you get plus money. And if you take that, you get the plus money and the over on the rushing. That's a nice little combo bet too that we like to do here on the program. I think that's a great way. And look, Bijan's going to carry a lot of rosters this week. So if you have Bijan, the stars have aligned for you. Kirk Cousins definitely going to hand the ball off a fair amount. I think that's the path here to win. When you don't have the quarterback you want playing is handing the ball off a lot. The path to winning against Miami Dolphins is handing the ball off a lot. Yeah, you're going to see Tyler Algier here and there, and maybe even the fourth quarter a little bit, but not before I think Bijan has another one of these monster games. The Miami Dolphins just have no will to tackle anybody. The defense has been an absolute mess. If this was in Miami, maybe I'd feel a little differently, but on that turf at home, I mean, Bijan's going to be real fast, man. In no conditions, look out. It's going to be a big day for Bijan Robinson.
All right. You're setting up a fun watch. Thank you. Okay. You had mentioned Josh Allen and the way approach. So the people are asking, here we go. Josh Allen, we're going to give you a rushing yard prop over under on 30.5 yards with his feet, over or under, and why?
This is another one too, where I think it's going to be closer than people realize, but I think it's an over. He's gone over this in week 2, week 4, week 5, and week 6 before the bye in week 7. So the wide receivers just haven't gotten the job done here. And I think it's just time once again to acknowledge that you thought that Josh Palmer was going to be a thing. He's not a thing. You thought Keon Coleman would take another step forward. He has not. We'll see what they look like out of the bye. Maybe they've tweaked some things, fixed some things. Okay. But are they Band-Aids or are they permanent solutions? And I think the Buffalo Bills in the next 2 weeks in the trade deadline are going to be after it again, looking for a wide receiver. They were last year. They acquired Amari Cooper. That really didn't do much. Jacoby Myers has been floating out there. I know in a lot of trade rumors, there's a lot of other guys that could be available. So Josh Allen needs more help. And this is why I still like the over, because I don't think he's getting enough help. James Cook, when James Cook goes over a certain amount of carries, they win football games. So that's the only thing that could eat into this total. But I still think this number is very achievable. And then you mentioned about those props potentially where you're getting the combos. I'm looking again heavily at Christian McCaffrey and his usage. Look, he has touched a football more than anybody by a wide margin, even by Jonathan Taylor standards, a lot, okay? Way more than anybody else. Leading the league in touches in week 8. It's not the greatest idea here for Christian McCaffrey long-term, but I think the 49ers are underwater again a little bit. George Kittle came back last week. He didn't do anything fantasy-related. He all he did was block. So the over-under is plus 110.5 for that combo. This is another one, very achievable. He's gotten this many times already this season. So I'm going to look for the over here. So 4 overs. I would like to give you an under in there. But man, oh man, I'm trying to be positive in week 8 because there's so many injuries. We got to help people out. Speaking of help, let's make some trades when we return on FST.
You just see Texas in any game, and again, Kentucky used to be able to put up points in the past. 43.5 is crazy because it just feels like Texas is going to come in, play really good defense, and try to squeeze this game out. It'll be interesting to see because nothing got ailed from that victory last week. Hey, Texas is back. I'm just being facetious at this point. But if we see one of those performances hey, 17-14 Texas.
In the fourth quarter.
Yeah, come on.
Right? I mean, really. I mean, they got a gift last week.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. It looks like the Bengals fantasy pieces are back. What did you make of that Joe Flacco performance on Thursday night? Turning back time.
Yeah, it was great for a guy like me with gray in the beard. I love seeing it. I love my representation. But at the end of the day, just from a wagering standpoint, if this continues, it'll give some consistency and it'll give some value back to those tools that you were mentioning on the Bengals.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Defense is above average this year, and I think big picture they're going to be probably the most consistent moving forward. The problem I have is this guy, Trevor Lawrence, big picture. You got to take the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly sometimes is real ugly. He is not comfortable in the pocket on a consistent basis, and that's a problem.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
We've had an undefeated regular season a couple times in the NFL. The Patriots, of course, did it before losing in the Super Bowl to the Giants. The 72 Dolphins, of course, did it en route to a Super Bowl win. But to go winless is harder than to win every single game. And my New York Jets are well on the way to doing this.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here. And Joe, I posit the notion that FST has the best just drum break intro, outro, and bumper music. Every time our producer, Sam Y, the sports guy, or sometimes TD Jake jumps on the headsets, counting me in, I just hear the boom, 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 boom. As a drum enthusiast, it gets me going. Just want to share that with anyone that cares. All right, it's time now for buy low, sell high. Guess which one I am. All right, Joe, we're going to give you two buy low options and two sell high options, and then you'll take over from here, probably for the rest of the year as well after management sees us. Just kidding. All right, give me a buy low candidate. Give me a wide receiver.
That's what they call this duo, wake and bake. That's what we do here on a Sunday morning. Let's get to Rome Odunze because I know since the bye, things have been a little disappointing. The Bears have relied heavily on the run game. You've seen a little bit more Kyle Monangai, another guy we're going to talk about more in the show as we go on here. But everybody wants to trade Rome Odunze. Oh, my gosh. This week at Fantasy Pros, I can't tell you how many questions I've taken about Rome Odunze. He's only got 4 catches over his last 2 games, but he still has 11 targets. No touchdowns since the bye week. But do not fret. He gets the Baltimore Ravens today. That defense has not been good this year. Have you been watching? Then after that, the schedule really opens up. Cincinnati. Okay, well, we know they're a terrible defense. The New York Giants. You can certainly throw on them. Just ask Bo Nix. Minnesota Vikings. We saw Thursday night, didn't we? Pittsburgh, I'm not really super afraid of. And then we can continue on. Really, the only tough matchups start to happen when we get to week 14, where we get the Green Bay Packers. We get Cleveland and Green Bay. That's a tough stretch. But let's get to the playoffs first. Let's get there. Rome Odunze, I think, is a fascinating buy low. I would even not be shocked if DJ Moore potentially was on the trade block as well, as the Bears kind of start to retool that roster. They drafted Luther Burden. Maybe they want to get him more involved. So DJ Moore could be a trade chip in the next 2 weeks. What would he like? Maybe potentially to go to Buffalo? I know I would if I was DJ Moore. That'd be a great situation for me. Get Josh Allen as my quarterback. But Rome Odunze, I think, is a definite buy low this week for sure. He's been kind of the number one favorite target of Caleb Williams. Now, Caleb hasn't played all that great. I don't care what anybody's telling me all year. I continue to say I think Tyson Bagent might be an interesting pivot, but I can't make that pivot because of all the investment they have in Caleb Williams, and the Bears are winning football games. So it's going to be status quo, which means a little bit more running the football here as long as Swift is healthy. And then on top of that, you're going to manage football games, and Ben Johnson's trying to get W's right now. And You will see Caleb Williams, but you're all going to see more Rome Odunze as well. I think Rome is going to be a nice buy low asset coming out of the break here. Everybody loved Rome going into the bye week. Coming out of the bye week, everybody hates Rome, which is not a very popular sitcom. I want to buy.
you know, Joseph, someone out there. That's my best Brad Garrett that I can do. And if anyone out there can do what's her name? Doris Roberts.
You're the only person to do a Brad Garrett imitation on air. That's very, very good.
Well, Joseph,
that's one in the chamber. There you go.
I often hear you talking about the best time to trade a player is when he's coming off the injured list. But here we have George Kittle, tight end for San Francisco. Well, hang on a second, Robert. You see the problem, boys. All right, George Kittle. This is off the rails. George Kittle, why is he a buy low?
I just wanted to see how far you're going to go with that. George Kittle's a buy low because we've been waiting for him for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then he came back finally. And what happened? Nothing. 0 fantasy points, 2 targets, no catches, nothing. Well, guess what today is? It's National Tight End Day. So we're getting back in on George Kittle. So help me. That's right. National Tight End Day. I know that's every day for some people, but I'm telling you right now, George Kittle bounced back. Also, selling high. Look, I know DeAndre Swift's had a couple good games, but the emergence of Kyle Monangai last week, a player that I know we've talked about on the program going back into draft season, all the way up until August here in the not just NFL draft season, but then fantasy draft season in August. I think Monangai is going to continue eating that workload. I think he's going to be more like that David Montgomery, which is all that I wanted him to become. And then DeAndre Swift works more as that Jahmyr Gibbs type, and that's going to be tough. It's going to take some touchdowns away potentially from Swift. So kick the tires on him. And then Ashton Jeanty was on a bye this week. If you're a team that's struggling and you're not making the playoffs, it's something to look at right now because you need more immediate help. And Ashton Jeanty is a very talented player. The hope is the Raiders get healthy after this bye, but when they do, they also end up bringing back hopefully a healthy Brock Bowers. That could change the dynamic of this offense. What if there's a quarterback change as well? Plus, the playoff matchups for Ashton Jeanty are not great. We start to look ahead. I know it's early, but it's not that early. So Jeanty, I think, is still a better long-term guy than is maybe a redraft situation, especially with the schedule maps out. But I don't see a lot of games where he's potentially in a situation where the Raiders are ahead and running the football a ton, if you know what I mean. It's kind of tough out there for the Las Vegas Raiders. So we come back. We're going to take a look at more guys to start and sit, and we are going to go back to Chicago for that first one. That's right. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
Very young team outside of Durant. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
I don't want people to stop discounting how good of a coach Rick Carlisle is. And I think they're going to find a way to get it done. I think they're going to be better than people think. And I also think if that's the case, then I'm fading someone in that division. You know who I'm fading, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks, who have now cut 2 players this year so that they can bring back both Antetokounmpo to play with Giannis.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
People who filed it are actually representatives of Chicago, so they're from the city. They're kind of saying, you know, this is really going to cripple the industry if we do this even more. I think it's really important when we talk about this stuff because so many places want to keep taxing sports betting more and more and more, which is well within their right. But there gets to a point where the bubble bursts and sports books either don't want to do business or they change the way they do it by passing it down to the customer.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, All Team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt and Joe with you here having a great time. We hope you are as well, and we hope that your Sunday and the rest of your week is profitable. At SportsGrid TV, keep the conversation. We want to hear from you, and we're pretty sure you got stuff you want to say to us, at least Joe. All right, Joe, it's time for the start sit. People are asking, so we need your help. It's a running back question. You've been mentioning Kyle Monangai so much throughout this show. You teased it, so here we go. He's at Baltimore, a much different Ravens team, that which we're used to. Or is it Nick Chubb, an old familiar name for Houston against San Francisco? Start, sit, why?
Yeah, look, Nick Chubb just kind of looks like a shell of himself, to be honest with you, this season. I mean, he's getting the job done. They're giving him about 12 carries or so a game, and he's giving you somewhere around like the 4-ish range of yards per carry. He's only got 2 touchdowns on the year. The offensive line's not very good. I don't know how this game script is going to be too. We have all these injuries here where Christian Kirk is out. You're missing Nico Collins, another big piece here. So a lot of injuries here for the Texans. So they become a little one-dimensional potentially offensively. Like you stop the run, you make the rookies beat you, and I think that's a clear path for San Francisco. So I'm going to roll the dice with Kyle Monangai here. Monangai against Baltimore. I already gave you that schedule upcoming for Roma Dunze. It's the same schedule because they're playing the same team. But I'm looking right now at next week too. Kyle Monangai is potentially a flex play or an RB2, depending on who you have on buys. I'm looking ahead to the Giants game the week after that. He doubled his carry output against New Orleans week 7, 13 for 81 and a touchdown. He's averaging 6 yards per carry there. He also caught 2 of his 3 targets for 13 yards. So he was working a ton. DeAndre Swift is a guy that has had some, injury history in the past a little bit too. And although DeAndre Swift has had some good games here coming out of the break, can he hold up over that full workload? I don't think so. And I think that's why you're seeing Kyle Monangai working in. And this is also a classic thing. After the bye, you're going to see a lot of these teams that put heavy capital into rookies start to utilize those rookies more. So keep a very close eye on that. That's the plan for a lot of these teams. So Kyle Monangai is one of those guys, and he's my guy this week that I want to start because I just think he's going to have more opportunity in the game today against Baltimore. Whereas Nick Chubb, I think, has a tougher game ahead of him here against San Francisco 49ers.
Look at you using good logic. Thank you very much. All right, this next question is a wide receiver battle as Buffalo travels to Carolina, Keon Coleman on one side, or New England has the Browns and it's Kayshon Boutte. So is it Coleman or Boutte, and why?
Yeah, look, this one's pretty close for me. The problem with Keon Coleman is, like you look at the matchup and you go, okay, yeah, great. Against Carolina, that's what we want to do. But, I mean, he's got 2 touchdowns on the season. He is wide receiver 48 currently. And I understand that Kayshon Boutte is a player that's been a little more economical with things, right? He's catching a lot of the balls that he's catching are for touchdowns, right? So I think that's a situation where you go, well, that's not really sustainable. And then we look at weird runs. And sometimes they are. I mean, look at Nick Westbrook-Ikhine not that long ago when he had that run where he was just catching a touchdown every week. And we kept asking ourselves, well, it can't go again, can it? And then it just kept going. Now, there's a far different scenario because he's playing with Drake May, who looks fantastic right now. So I think there is a lot more potentially, even though it's a tough matchup against a Cleveland Browns defense that's very good. Stephon Diggs is playing today. He was questionable all week and limited in practices, but he's going to play. I still think Kayshon Boutte is going to continue to get those red zone looks and find ways to score touchdowns. Whereas Keon Coleman, I think, is just a really tough sell. I mean, maybe we get him peppered with targets out of the break. It just doesn't feel like that. I mean, he had that massive week 1 where he had 11 targets, 8 receptions, and a touchdown for 112 yards. He hasn't broken 45 yards receiving since, and we're now in week 8. So I just don't know how you could possibly roll Keon Coleman out there over Kayshon Boutte. I just can't do it.
Okay, fair enough. All right, now let's move on. We have a tight end question, and you mentioned monitoring guys in practice, especially on Thursdays and Fridays. Both these tight ends were questionable throughout the week, so you'll give us whatever information you have. Is it Dalton Schultz for Houston versus San Francisco? Again, tough matchup there. Or is it Mason Taylor for the Jets? You mentioned Justin Fields will be in, and they're at Cincinnati, which is a soft defense. So which way would you go?
Well, I mean, we saw every tight end in the world score 2 Thursdays ago, didn't we, against the Cincinnati Bengals? I mean, they are the worst team in the NFL against the tight end. The problem is the Jets are just the worst team in the NFL. So how do you start Mason Taylor? I mean, I kid, but I don't. So this is the problem here. We are in the scenario where Mason Taylor should be the start on paper. There's no way you should. And I'm not saying you can't start Mason Taylor this week, but I'm saying if I have a choice between Dalton Schultz, who you saw a huge uptick in his workload when those wide receivers went down last week, I think that trend will continue for sure. Kyle Pitts had a good game last week against those 49ers too. Let's not forget. I mean, they're struggling. No Fred Warner as that linebacker anymore. All of a sudden, that's not quite the same defense in the middle of the field for the 49ers. So I'm very confident in Dalton Schultz. And I'm not the only one, too. The consensus ranking is tight end 8 on Fantasy Pros this week for Dalton Schultz. That's very high. Mason Taylor at 12. So both guys are startable, but they started out this week very close together. And Justin Fields, unfortunately, just, has not inspired a lot of confidence. And the fact that Garrett Wilson is out, look, you think that if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, look, just don't screw this up here. You're giving everything on a platter here. No Garrett Wilson. You're getting Justin Fields has been terrible. The Jets are coming apart at the seams. I'll play Dalton Schultz. Mason Taylor, again, it's good process to play him. I just don't know if you're going to get the productivity, unfortunately.
All right. This one here may seem like a slam dunk, but I want to hear from you. And it's a quarterback start-sit question. The first one is Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Great matchup here at Pittsburgh. This one on paper should be a dogfight. Or Jackson Dart for the Giants at Philadelphia. I mean, that's tough even if they were playing in a vacuum. But then, Joe, you know it firsthand. Put him outdoors, put him in Philadelphia. Man, I lean Love here, but I want to hear from you.
I think Love is the safer play. I mean, it's a tough matchup. You're going on the road to Pittsburgh, 2 weeks on the road to last week. They went to the Cardinals, which, by the way, if you remember on this show, I told everybody about the sitting on the tarmac for 7 hours, whatever it was. And maybe you should take the 7 that you got with the Arizona Cardinals. And if you did, you done good. You done well last week. The Cardinals looked like they might even win that game outright for quite a while. Eventually, Green Bay kind of woke up and figured it out. But I think Jordan Love is the safer start for sure. Jackson Dart is startable this week. And I just want to point out, too, against the Philadelphia Eagles, last time we saw him, he was QB3, 17 for 195 and a touchdown, but he also had 58 rushing yards. So really the value comes from Jackson Dart's legs. You didn't see that last week, but he still finished as QB3 last week as well. He threw for 283 with 3 touchdowns. I'm very confident in Jackson Dart on the road this week if you have to start him. So I want to give people warm and fuzzy feelings now that Jackson Dart, oh my God, I can't start this guy against the Eagles. Look, the more tape they get on guys, the more they're going to find weaknesses, and that's going to eventually catch up to Jackson Dart. But I do think that, what you've seen so far is a guy that can't be intimidated. The vibes there, as the kids like to say, for the New York Giants right now between Scadaboo and Dart are there. They're really fun. It makes you wonder if they had Malik Neighbors, what this team might look like. But that rushing equity for Dart is great. I do think Jordan Love is the safer start. I don't love the wide receiver group. It's hard to love it. Right. Christian Watson's going to be returning for him. We'll see what that does. But I'm starting Love. I need the real upside, or if I'm in a bad spot, Jackson Dart's still startable against the Philadelphia Eagles, even though it's going to be a tough environment. I was at a party last evening around that area, and I could tell you they are very excited for the New York Giants and a possible revenge game here for the Eagles after that tough loss on Thursday a couple weeks ago.
Ew, you like to socialize? That's gross. Okay, here we go. We have 2 wide receivers that are ranked right next to each other. I'm just kidding. Joe is a blast at parties, as you'd imagine. Sterling Shepard for the Buccaneers. You need to bounce back there at New Orleans. He's wide receiver 44. Or Josh Downs for Indianapolis versus Tennessee. He's wide receiver 45. Whom should I start and why? Take us to the break.
Yeah, look, I think with the Mike Evans injury, again, he's going to be out for the year basically now. I understand the people who want to start Shepard, but I would start Downs over him. A great matchup against Tennessee. I love the team total for the Indianapolis Colts this week, too. They've just been terrific. And last week we talked about that game, too, and I said the line was flat out wrong. And I was flat out right about that one, too. I got to tell you, like the Colts are a good football team. Jonathan Taylor last week, remember we gave you 2 touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor, 3-1. He scored 3. And this week, that number is plus 190 for 2 touchdowns. That's how good the Colts have been. I think Downs will benefit. He is healthy, and I think it's a great matchup, so I want to start him. But you might need some more help with some more players. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the waiver wire, who might still be on it, and can help you this week and beyond. We'll tell you after this.
And sometimes your offense can benefit your defense.
Yeah.
They are going to need to sustain drives, I believe. They can't go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and all of a sudden Price and Jeremiah Love are ripping your defense for 5 and 8 yards per carry. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day. So we'll see how this game plays out. I do favor the rushing attack and physicality of Notre Dame. The way they're running the football right now is as good as anybody.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I think I just smiled for the first time in relation to this game.
Yeah, my misery, right? My misery cost you a smile.
That was the price to pay.
This game is like watching paint dry. I mean, 21-0 in the first half. We have no action in the second. Brian Thomas, glass house. The guy can't stay on the field. His stone hands today.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
You don't worry, too much. I don't think Kendrick Bourne is a bad play. He's probably a good streamer, but I don't think he's going to get you 10 for 140 again. And he got you 10 for 140 again. And now he gets Mac Jones again this week playing quarterback. And Mac Jones has just found this connection. Now, you do have a returning George Kittle. That's going to put a wrinkle in this offense. Eventually, you should get a returning Brock Purdy. So Bourne's value is at its zenith. That's when you try to sell guys off.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
$17,848 have been bet on this question, Joe, at Kalshi. How many pro football games will Taylor Swift attend this season?
They average an average of 9.3 games during this season here, and a lot of that has to do with her reduced touring schedule, and this maybe being his final NFL season.
Incredible stuff here.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to FST Fantasy Sports Today. My name is Matt Striker. His name's Joe Pisapia. And Joe, I guarantee that this is the only show where the producer is snarkier and more sarcastic and grating than the two hosts. I got to tell you, man, Sam Y, the sports guy, folks, if you heard the things he said in my ear before he counts me in to talk to you beautiful people, you would really be a fan of his. All right, it's time to do the waiver wire here. And as Sam has pointed out clearly, that it's usually a process during the week. He was mocking me. Joe, people want running backs, but there's also a big wide receiver situation in Houston. We can talk that. And then if we have time, a defense. So let's go. A running back you've spoken about quite a bit here, and I'll let you set it up here, but he's surprisingly still available in at least 6 out of 10 leagues. Take it away.
Yeah, I don't know why Kyle Monangai is still out there. And I know a lot of people say, look, these roster percentages are higher in certain places like Sleeper, and they are because those are more competitive leagues. I get you. They say, oh, he's not available in my league. He's not available in any of my leagues either. You know why? Because he's on all my rosters. That's why, because I've been stashing this guy forever and trying to patiently wait. And the patience was getting thin, I can tell you that much. And finally, we got him showing up last week. And I do think the trend continues. So this is the consensus. So it takes Yahoo, ESPN, all of these right now. It's still under 50%. So if he is still around there in even a shallow league, I do think he's worth rostering. I think he's very streamable this week. You want to see that volume continue. He is a volume kind of back. And remember, he's the back that they drafted. So keep that in mind. When a new coach comes in and they have certain things that they want to do, Monangai is not, is not Derrick Henry, right? But he does run really hard. And I think that's an edge that the Bears are going to want. And as the weather starts to turn in Chicago down in November and December, you're going to have to run the football even more. I think Monangai is going to have a lot of value, and I think they were saving the bullets here a little bit. This is a product from Rutgers. He runs hard. He's a tough kid, good kid, and I think that Monangai is going to be a piece of this Bears offense going forward. Like I said, the hope is he emerges as the David Montgomery version in this two-headed backfield. But we need to see the 13 carries again this week. But I want to pick him up now if he's still available. I don't want to wait till it happens again, because otherwise you're going to have to empty the clip of all the fab you have in order to get him.
All right, and that's a great segue into this next question. So let's say for the managers out there that were late to the party on Monangai, give me another running back, but make it a little easier for me. Maybe available in 7 or 8 out of 10 leagues. Can you give me that?
Yeah, Brashard Smith, also another one, is starting to emerge a little bit. Another one of our favorite things. Pacheco just hasn't looked explosive at all. Brashard Smith does, and Brashard Smith can catch the ball in the backfield too. Now, we were hoping, we don't want anyone to get hurt, but we were hoping that with, Kareem Hunt getting banged up last week that we'd see more Smith, but Hunt, it looks like, is going to play this week. So now it becomes a little bit muddier, which is not great, but I'm still going to bet on the guy that when he touches the football just looks better doing it over the long term. And again, these rookies, especially the running backs, get babied a little bit more in the NFL now than ever more, because you just don't see guys becoming, even Bijan's rookie year, right? I saw a lot of Tyler Algier, right? And I just think that's the path that a lot of these teams take, where they want these running backs just kind of ramped up slowly. So Brashard Smith, I think, could actually be a huge answer and a huge gift to this Chiefs offense. That Chiefs are starting to roll a little bit. They got Rashee Rice back last week. I think, you're going to see Kelsey continue to work. You'll see Worthy continue to be startable. Brashard Smith's another one of these guys, too, if there is an injury to Pacheco, who has had some injury issues, or Kareem Hunt, who is not a spring chicken, gets hurt. Brashard Smith's workload goes through the roof, and I think this is a guy you have to have. My friend Pat Fitzmaurice, we get into November, he has a term, cuffing and stuffing, right? You start handcuffing these running backs and start stuffing your face with Thanksgiving food. You do these kind of things around this time of year. It does to Pat.
I had a much different
That's a lovely
interpretation.
Midwestern guy. He's a lovely Midwestern guy. What it means to you, I don't know, because you're
cool. Right. No, let's just move on.
But
okay, so all right, listen, I think we have the brightest fans. As you know, it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. So people are clamoring. They want the free square. They love the running back talk, but they don't want to have to fight anyone else. Give me a running back with a cherry matchup that is essentially a free square. Maybe he's available 7, 8 out of 10 leagues, maybe even 9 out of 10 leagues. Can you give me that?
Well, Isaiah Davis, I think there's a possibility here, could see more of a workload, right? You saw Braylon Allen go out with an injury. And Breece Hall, I think, is one of the biggest trade candidates out there. If the Jets had any brain inside that organization, this isn't your year. I don't know if next year will be your year. Trade Breece Hall, get some draft picks, get a draft pick, get something, get some draft capital. Let Isaiah Davis play, the guy that you drafted, and just move on here and continue to remake this organization and be better. Jeez. And I think this is what you want to do. But here's the thing, Isaiah Davis, right? In that scenario, becomes a lead back. He becomes a guy that's going to touch the football 15, 20 times a game. And that's huge. And the fact that he's available in, 85% of leagues right now, that's a guy, again, stuffing and cuffing season. You want to have on your roster. You want to have him now. You don't want to wait for the trade. We're going to have a graphic next week for this. Now, what that graphic looks like, I don't know.
Now, does it involve a turkey based
Halloween getting the costume? I think that's what I think.
All right. Fans are having a blast, by the way, at SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. Keep it going here. All right. It seems that the chatter is pivoting now to a wide receiver. We started the show talking about some of the problems at wide receiver. Again, people looking for a free square. Is there anyone out there? And then if you have time, maybe a defense?
Yeah, in deeper leagues right now, available in 90% of leagues is Jalen Noel. And Jalen Noel, I think, is a player that, I like a lot coming out of college. I think he's very talented. I know a lot of people think Jayden Higgins automatically goes into that Nico role, and he does in theory, but I just don't know how productive he's going to be in that if he's ready for it. If he was, I think we'd see more of him already. We haven't. We did see a lot of Jalen Noel last week, at least being productive. He wasn't on the field as much, but I think you're going to see more of him on the field this week as they try to take advantage of the fact that, look, if you're the Houston Texans, you don't have a good offensive line. You need to get rid of the football quick. That favors the slot receiver. And right now, that's where he's playing. And right now, that's where Jalen Noel, I think, could really excel. So this is a guy that I think could get you double-digit points this week. And that's huge in Week 8 with so many teams on a bye and so many injuries. So Noel is definitely a player that I think is still very much in the mix. And then for defenses, again, the Miami Dolphins, they are so bad here. So let's continue to go with the Atlanta Falcons, 43% rostered, available in almost half of leagues. There's turnover potential. You don't have Tyreek Hill to worry about. Sure, Devon Achane's there, but look, the Dolphins on the road, yes, please. Just give me this all day long. I think Kirk Cousins will be just fine. I'm not concerned at all. And those are the guys on the waiver wire to add. But we're not done yet. We come back. We're going to update you on some more guys that are in and out and what we're looking for in Week 8.
if you watch a Mavericks game, every single play he's arguing with the referees. I mean, if I was
like
the ref,
his hands are up. It's like, dude, everyone else is halfway up the floor right now, and he's still back here arguing.
Yeah. I mean, I would tee him up. There is no doubt in my mind, Gabe, the NBA's got to go to these refs and say, listen, you know what? Swallow the whistle with him.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I am willing to bet on Wemby is a triple-double ladder season-long market. I did this actually with Caitlin Clark, who had a triple-double in Game 1 and then spent the rest of the season injured. I hope that does not happen with Victor Wembanyama. 3 triple-doubles at plus 165 should be absolutely no problem for Wemby. Had 2 his rookie season, 1 last year prior to the injury.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
It is exactly why, like you said, Donnie, this time of year is the absolute best in sports. And first off, the NBA returned to NBC. And hearing that theme music, seeing Mike Tirico back on the call, seeing Michael Jordan on the screen, it just felt right? Like an old friend that you haven't seen in decades that walks back into your life.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We've had an undefeated regular season a couple times in the NFL. The Patriots, of course, did it before losing in the Super Bowl to the Giants. The 72 Dolphins, of course, did it en route to a Super Bowl win. But to go winless is harder than to win every single game. And my New York Jets are well on their way to doing this.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports. Today, Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia, part of a great team, just a great network overall. Just wishing you an amazing day. We hope it's profitable. And of course, remember, it's smarter to be on SportsGrid and keep the conversation going. We want to hear how your day's going. At SportsGrid, at SportsGrid TV. All the hosts and producers here are very active, especially on this day. Joe, it's time for 3 and Out. 3 things to which you are actively looking forward to this week.
Well, certainly paying attention to, looking forward to, and that's going to be tricky. I don't know how much we're looking forward to the backup quarterback. You're asking too much in week 8. A lot of backup quarterbacks right now. I mean, just to kind of run through the list again, Penix looks like he's going to be out for Cousins. Brock Purdy is out. Tyler Huntley is playing for Lamar Jackson. I can go on, and I will. I have to. We've also got Andy Dalton under center today. Justin Fields was replaced, and then he wasn't replaced. So Justin Fields is actually back now. So I guess that kind of counts as well. So it's just a lot. Marcus Mariota for Jaden Daniels. So just a ton of backup quarterback play, which is frustrating in Superflex leagues on one of the biggest bye weeks of the year. Why the NFL, can't just divide, right? It's 32 teams, right? Can you just give us 8 bye weeks with 4 teams each week? Can't we just do that? Wouldn't that be nice for everybody? Nice and even, 8 bye weeks, 4 teams on a bye. I don't know. Maybe that's too much to ask. But from a fantasy perspective, it's crushing. And the injuries on top of it made it really hard. And now with the backup quarterback play, you're going to see some ugly out there in the scoring this week. You're going to see some kind of like, if you're used to seeing like, oh, it's 125 to 119 in your fantasy league, some of these scores might be 89 to 74. Like I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a very different look at the scoreboards. Don't freak out. It's just going to be the nature of the beast. So some of those big dogs, the Jonathan Taylor, the Bijan Robinsons of the world, those guys are going to carry the day if they have big days again. So you need your superstars to really carry you this week because it is tough out there in those streets. Also, rematch between the Philadelphia Eagles, this time in Philadelphia against the New York Giants. Last time these two teams met up, not only did the Giants cover, they won outright. Really interesting scenario here. The Giants have nothing to lose. The Giants almost went into Denver and won. They should have won that football game. A couple extra points, a little bit better defense here and there. Maybe some better clock management, Brian Daboll. Maybe, just maybe, the Giants would have had that victory, right? All those things went wrong for them. But I don't think this team is intimidated. I think Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo, I said it before, are ready to go. They're ready, locked and loaded. They fear nothing. Cam Scatterbo doesn't fear anything. Maybe he should. I don't know. But he doesn't fear anything. But the Eagles are in a tough spot here, too, because they're going to be without A.J. Brown for this game. So now they're down one of their star players. Saquon has not quite been the Saquon of last year, right? Gee, I wonder if maybe those 400-plus carries took their toll on him last year. If only there was somebody talking about that all offseason long. But he has to have a big game for the Philadelphia Eagles to feel really good about beating the Giants this week. And then we need turnarounds here. Buffalo Bills have lost 2 in a row. Coming out of a bye, let's see what they look like. They got a winnable matchup against Carolina, but Carolina's no cakewalk anymore. Absolutely. They do have Andy Dalton under center. So I don't know how that's going to be. And then, again, Baltimore, I mean, I think we all thought Lamar was trending in the right direction. Now he's out. So you're going to get Huntley. So, again, it's not the same here with Zay Flowers. Huntley's better than Cooper Rush. He's run this offense before, and he's been pretty serviceable. So I'm actually more confident that he could be all right. So he's still starting Zay Flowers, I think, unless you're really on the bubble with somebody. But it's tough out there. Matt, what are you looking forward to most in Week 8 here from what you've seen on the schedule?
Well, I think number one on the graphic hits it. It's the Giants at Philadelphia. And it might just be because here we are in the Northeast. I'm on Long Island. Joe's in New Jersey. But seeing the excitement for the potential of the Giant team in the New York media and seeing the excitement as a wagerer for guys like Scatterbo, dynamic players, I want to see the Giants successful. But somewhere in my gut, it just feels like Philly's going to beat the brakes off of them. I don't know why. I just don't know if they can, they being the Giants, can emotionally come back so quickly from last week to go in. But sometimes you put your head down and you throw your best right hand, right? It's not the best technique, but sometimes it lands. This is going to be the fun one. Giants of Philadelphia is the one I'm looking forward to.
Go Birds, right? Also, some interesting notes here. It looks like Rashid Shaheed might be another wide receiver on the block. So keep looking around with guys like Shaheed, DJ Moore, Jacoby Myers. I would even say Breece Hall, too. Like, there's going to be some movement here at the trade deadline. We've seen a lot more movement the last couple years here. Trade deadline in the NFL, Matt will tell you, it was a yawn for the most part our whole life.
In the day.
Last couple of years, a little bit different. I think this year might be explosive. So keep an eye on that. Get ahead of it, not just with the players getting traded, but who's replacing them in those lineups. Get ahead of all of that and stay with us, of course, on the grid all day long and get ahead of your wagering. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Matt Striker, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Enjoy your NFL Sunday.
Offense could benefit your defense.
Yeah.
They are going to need to sustain drives, I believe. They can't go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and all of a sudden Price and Jeremiah Love are ripping your defense for 5 and 8 yards per carry. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day. So we'll see how this game plays out. I do favor the rushing attack and physicality of Notre Dame. The way they're running the football right now is as good as anybody.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I think I just smiled for the first time in relation to this game.
Yeah, my misery, right? My misery cost you a smile.
That was the price to pay.
This game is like watching paint dry. I mean, 21-0 in the first half. We have no action in the second. Brian Thomas, glass house. The guy can't stay on the field. There's stone hands today.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Don't worry, too much. I don't think Kendrick Bourne is a bad play. He's probably a good streamer, but I don't think he's going to get you 10 for 140 again. And he got you 10 for 140 again. And now he gets Mac Jones again this week playing quarterback. And Mac Jones has just found this connection. Now, you do have a returning George Kittle. That's going to put a wrinkle in this offense. Eventually, you should get a returning Brock Purdy. So Bourne's value is at its zenith. That's when you try to sell guys off.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
$17,848 have been bet on this question, Joe, at Kalshi. How many pro football games will Taylor Swift attend this season?
They average an average of 9.3 games during this season here, and a lot of that has to do with her reduced touring schedule, and this maybe being his final NFL season.
Incredible stuff here.
The early line. only on SportsGrid.